The hallway outside 4B always smelled like old paint and somebody's fried onions. Late that morning, it smelled like vanilla perfume instead, sweet, cheap, and too confident for a building that still had a coin-operated laundry. I stopped with my key already in my hand. The door was ajar, not wide open, just enough that the chain hung slack, like someone had opened it carefully and left it that way on purpose. I didn't step in right away. I put my grocery bag down by my shoe, pulled one of the paper receipts out, and checked the time printed at the bottom. 11:07 a.m. Corner Market. Milk, bread, bananas. I looked at the hinge side gap on the door. No splintering, no damage, no forced entry. Someone used a key. I lifted the grocery bag again and went inside without calling out. The apartment was quiet, but not settled. The air felt handled, like a room after a hotel maid has been through it. Everything clean, but not yours anymore. My living room rug had a corner folded under. I never fold it under. That rug catches my ankle if it isn't flat. I set the bag on the kitchen counter and walked toward the bedroom. The bedroom door was half shut, not latched. A thin line of light leaked through. I stopped in front of it and listened. A drawer slid, soft, careful, then another. The sound of something small being moved against wood. A bottle cap, maybe. A pill bottle, something hard and round. I pushed the door open an inch. Megan was at my nightstand, bent forward, one knee on the carpet, both hands inside my top drawer like she was searching for a wedding ring in a jewelry box. Her hair was pinned up, neat like she'd made time for this. She had a canvas tote on the floor beside her. She pulled out my heart medication and lifted it to her ear. Shook it once, then she lowered it, stared at the label, and put it back like it was nothing. She reached under the mattress next, lifting the corner with practiced ease. That was when I spoke. "Are you looking for a hidden fortune?" I said, "or checking if I've expired yet?" My voice came out level. I didn't raise it. I didn't rush the words. Megan froze, not startled, just interrupted. Then she turned with a smile already loaded into place, like she'd been rehearsing it in the mirror. "Oh, Gerald," she said. "You scared me. I was just stopping by." She stood and smoothed her sweater down as if she'd been dusting. Her eyes moved over the room and landed on the grocery bag I'd left in the kitchen, like she was confirming I'd been out and back. "Stopping by how?" I asked. "With a key I didn't give you." She gave a small laugh, the kind meant to make you feel silly for bringing up rules. "I have a key because Brandon gave me one. We worry about you. You live alone, Gerald. It's not safe." I looked at my nightstand drawer. I looked at the mattress corner still lifted. What part of worry involves checking my medication and lifting my bed? I asked. Her smile didn't move, only her eyes tightened, like she was trying to figure out whether I was angry or just inconvenient. "You get confused," she said lightly. "I'm making sure you take your pills. Brandon told me you've been forgetful." "Brandon told you that," I repeated. Megan stepped closer by half a foot. It wasn't intimacy. It was pressure. "Gerald, don't do this," she said. "I'm here to help you. This place is, honestly, it's a mess. If you're going to accuse me, maybe I just stop coming and let you manage on your own." She brushed past me toward the living room, bumping my shoulder, just enough to tell me she could. At the doorway, she paused and looked back like she was addressing a child who didn't want to eat vegetables. "You should be thanking me," she said. "A man your age living alone is irresponsible. You're losing your grip. Everyone sees it." Then she left the bedroom and walked out of my apartment without asking permission, without waiting for my response. She left the front door open behind her. I stood there for a moment, listening to her heels fade down the corridor. The building was quiet again, but now it was the quiet after a door has been tested. I walked to the front door, closed it, and engaged the deadbolt. My hands didn't shake. I picked up my grocery bag and put the milk away. Then I went to my desk and opened my black notebook. I wrote one clean entry, the way I always did when something mattered. Late morning, bedroom, nightstand drawer disturbed, medication handled, Mattress lifted. Megan present. No adjectives. Just facts. Brandon arrived that evening because he's always been punctual when he's uncomfortable. He knocked twice, waited, then knocked again like he wanted the interaction to be officially logged. I opened the door and stepped aside. He came in smelling of fast food and cold air. He didn't take his jacket off. That told me he didn't plan to stay long. He sat on the sagging beige sofa. He didn't sit back. He perched like a visitor in an office. I put my black notebook on the coffee table between us. I didn't slide it toward him. I simply placed it where his eyes couldn't avoid it. Read it, I said. Brandon picked it up, flipped 2 pages without focusing, then set it down with a sigh that had been practiced. Dad, he said, we've talked about this. We talked about what? I asked. Your wife entering my apartment when I'm not here? He rubbed his forehead with his thumb, a gesture I remembered from when he was a teenager and he'd been caught lying about a report card. Megan is worried about you, he said. She's trying to help. She was in my bedroom, I said, handling my medication. Brandon's eyes flicked toward the kitchen and back, like he wanted to be anywhere else. She told me you've been forgetting things, he said. She said you called her by mom's name. She said you left the stove on. I watched him carefully while he spoke. He didn't look at me when he said those lines. That meant he didn't believe them. Not completely, but he was repeating them anyway. I did not call her Catherine, I said. And I didn't leave the stove on. Brandon's mouth tightened. He tapped the notebook with 2 fingers, not reading it, just dismissing it by touching it. This, he said, isn't evidence. It's a list of paranoia. The word sat between us, ugly and convenient. I kept my voice even. Your wife has a key, I said. I didn't give her one. Explain that. He exhaled and finally met my eyes. For a second, there was something like shame there. Then it got covered by irritation. It's for emergencies, he said. She's trying to keep you safe. By going through my drawers, I said. By lifting my mattress. Brandon stood up abruptly, as if standing would end the discussion. Dad, you're 71, he said. You live alone. This neighborhood isn't what it used to be. And you're acting like everything's a conspiracy. I let him finish. He kept going, momentum building as if he'd been storing these sentences for days. Megan thinks we should look into assisted living, he said. Somewhere with professionals. People who can deal with your episodes. Episodes, I repeated. Brandon flinched slightly, then recovered. We're doing this for your own good, he said. If you keep attacking Megan, we're going to have to take steps to protect you from yourself. There it was, the shape of the trap. He grabbed his jacket tighter around him and moved toward the door. I stood as well, not to block him, just to be standing when he left. I'm not attacking her, I said. I'm describing what she did. There's a difference. Brandon opened the door. Please, he said, voice strained. Don't make this ugly. Then he left, and the door clicked shut behind him, soft as a judge's gavel. I sat down again, opened the notebook, and added one more clean line. That evening, Brandon uses the word episodes, mentions assisted living, threat, protect you from yourself. Again, no adjectives, just facts. The next morning I made coffee black and drank it standing at the counter, because sitting down makes you linger. Then I went to the card table I used as a desk. On it were 3 folders I'd arranged the night before. Not because I'm obsessive, because placement tells you whether a room has been entered. The blue folder was off by ½ inch. A ½ inch is a lot, if you didn't move it yourself. I didn't open anything right away. I didn't touch anything. I took out my phone and photographed the tabletop from above, then from the side, capturing the misalignment. Then I went to the cedar box on the shelf above the desk. It was small, hand-sized, with a lid that fit snug. I kept it there because it was the one place my hands would naturally avoid when I was tired. Habit can be a better lock than metal. I lifted the lid. The felt lining was exposed. Empty. Catherine's pocket watch was gone. It wasn't valuable in money. It was valuable in time. It was the last thing of hers I could hold without memory doing all the work. I stood there looking down into the box, and the first thing I noticed was not grief. It was the neatness. The box hadn't been dumped. It hadn't been ransacked. The watch had been removed cleanly, like someone knew exactly what they wanted and didn't want to leave a mess. That wasn't burglary. That was a message. I texted Megan with both thumbs. Return the watch. Now. Her reply came quickly. What watch? Gerald, you're spiraling. Maybe you threw it out again. Check the dumpster. I read it twice, not because I didn't understand, but because I wanted to hear the tone clearly. Daddy, she'd written in a follow-up. Not, Gerald. Not, Dad. Daddy. Like a pacifier. I didn't respond. I took a second photograph of the empty box, then a third of the shelf showing faint dust lines where the box had sat. Then I opened the notebook and wrote a single entry that included the only details that mattered. Missing object, her denial, and the attempt to make me doubt my own reality. I did not go to the dumpster. By mid-morning, I pulled my laptop out of the drawer where it stayed when I didn't need it. The device was old but functional. I liked it that way. Old things force you to be deliberate. I reached behind a row of books and removed a small black object the size of my thumb. A wide-angle camera. Motion activated. Silent storage. I'd installed it after the 5th time I suspected someone had entered while I was out. I hadn't told Brandon. I hadn't told Megan. I connected it to the laptop and opened the file directory. The video list appeared in a grid. Dates, times, clip lengths. I clicked one clip and watched the screen fill with my living room from a high corner angle. The timestamp in the corner mattered because it would matter to other people later. 3:14 a.m. Megan stepped in wearing black, hoodie, leggings, soft shoes. Not her daytime, I'm just checking in, outfit. This one had intention. She paused, scanned the room, then walked directly to my desk like she already knew where everything was. She opened the blue folder first and flipped through it quickly. Then she reached up and took the cedar box off the shelf. She opened it. She smiled when she saw the watch. Not a happy smile, a satisfied one. She slipped the watch into her pocket. Then she didn't leave. She took out her phone, turned on the flashlight, and opened my desk drawer. The drawer that held my mail, my bank statements, and my identification. She laid items out on the desk in neat rows, like she was preparing an inventory. I leaned closer to the screen and watched her phone angle down over each document. Click, 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 a slow, careful series of photographs. My driver's license, my social security card, a recent bank statement, a letter from my cardiologist listing my medication. She didn't steal the papers. She documented them. Then she gathered everything back up and replaced it almost exactly where it had been, almost. The blue folder went back off by that half-inch. She closed the drawer, looked around once more, and left, closing the door softly behind her. I paused the video on a clear frame. Her face lit by the phone screen, eyes fixed on the documents, mouth relaxed like she was doing a task she'd done before. I didn't replay it. I didn't need the emotional impact twice. I copied the file onto an external drive. Then I saved a second copy to a cloud folder under a name that meant nothing to anyone else. Then I created a third copy on a second service. When the progress bar finished, I closed the laptop and wrote one sentence in my notebook that could stand up in any office. Video evidence. Megan enters with key. Removes pocket watch. Photographs ID. Bank documents, medical letter. I capped my pen and sat still for a moment. Not because I was shocked. Because I was choosing the next move with a clear head. Routine keeps you from tipping your hand. So I made coffee again and moved through the rest of the morning like it was ordinary. When Megan texted again, baiting me, I let it sit. In my line of work, you don't interrupt a person mid-mistake. You let them finish. That week I did 3 things, and I did them quietly. First, I went to my doctor alone. The waiting room television was muted, showing a cooking show where someone had burned something expensive. When I sat down across from Dr. Patel, he reviewed my chart and smiled. Blood pressure's stable, he said. Cholesterol's behaving. Good, I said. He scrolled, then paused. I see a note here, he said. Someone called with concerns about compliance. I didn't react. I waited. Your daughter-in-law, he continued. She said you've been forgetting doses. He watched my face carefully now, assessing credibility. I take them at the same times, I said. And I log them. I handed him a folded sheet of paper. Dates, times, initials. No gaps. He studied it, then nodded slowly. She didn't mention a log, he said. I wasn't aware she was authorized to speak for me, I replied. She isn't, he said. But family often worries. Worry is not consent, I said. He tapped the tablet and typed a note. Patient reports third-party interference without authorization. No cognitive impairment observed. Require written consent for any future inquiries. He turned the screen slightly so I could see it. That should help, he said. It did, because it was now a record. Second, I went to the bank and asked for a supervisor. The bank smelled like carpet cleaner and impatience. The chairs were designed for waiting, not comfort. I told them I needed two things: an authorized contact list and an access history. Not a summary. The history. A young teller typed, frowned, and lowered her voice. It shows a secondary contact was added, she said. Last week. Who added it? I asked. Phone authorization, she said. Customer service. I didn't call, I said. She clicked again, then swallowed. It lists Megan Turner, she said. Relationship. Family caregiver. I nodded once. I want that removed, I said. Immediately, a supervisor in a gray tie joined us. He listened without interrupting. There's a note, the teller said. It says the caller reported cognitive concerns and requested monitoring alerts. What kind of alerts? I asked. Large withdrawals, account changes, missed payments. And who receives those alerts? I asked. She hesitated. She does. And, your son. The supervisor's jaw tightened. Do we have power of attorney on file? He asked. No, I said. Then this shouldn't have happened, he said. He typed notes as I watched. We'll remove the contact, he said. We'll disable the alerts. We'll add a verbal password. Any future changes require in-person verification. He stamped a confirmation page and slid it to me. That stamp mattered. I asked one more thing, quietly. If anyone calls again claiming concern, I said, you log it? He nodded. We log everything. Good, I thought. Then let the logs do their job. Third, I stopped pretending this was a private family issue. I sat at my desk, opened my notebook, and wrote a clean timeline: calls, visits, neighbor questions, mail interference, the doctor note, the bank contact, the video. I didn't write what it felt like. I wrote what it was. Calm is not weakness. It's control. Megan called one morning, breathless, using that daddy voice again. I've been worried sick, she said. You didn't respond to my messages. I was busy, I said. With what? She asked, too quickly. Living, I said. She adjusted her tone. I made some calls, she said. Just to streamline things. There are programs that help seniors manage day-to-day tasks. I manage my tasks, I said. Of course you do, she said soothingly. But wouldn't it be nice not to have to? No, I said. She laughed softly, like I'd said something childish. I've filled out preliminary forms, she said. Just exploratory. They need your signature eventually, but I wanted to save you the trouble. What forms? I asked. Oh, nothing serious, she said. Quality of life assessments, authorization releases. Email them, I said. They're paper, she said. It's easier if I explain in person. Email them, I repeated. She went quiet. Finally, she said, you're making this harder than it needs to be. I took a sip of coffee. And you're making it easier than it should be, I said. She hung up. I wrote one line in my notebook and stopped there. One line was enough. Then she made the mistake people make when they believe momentum is on their side. She sent an email she hadn't meant to send to me. The subject line read, intake, urgent. No greeting. No soft language. Attached are documents and photos discussed. Let me know if you need anything else before filing. Beneath it was a forwarded chain. Names weren't hidden well. A case reference number, a coordinator's signature block, and 5 attachments. I saved the email, downloaded the files, preserved the metadata. Then I opened them. A scanned copy of my driver's license, my social security card, a bank statement, a photograph of Catherine's pocket watch on a granite countertop I didn't recognize, and a document titled, Statement of Observed Decline. I read it carefully. Megan had written it herself. She described me as increasingly confused, resistant to care, financially vulnerable, emotionally unstable since widowhood. Some examples were exaggerated, some were invented, some were lifted from things she had caused, missed calls, corrected errors, refusals. At the bottom was her signature. Under relationship to subject, she had checked primary caregiver. I closed the file, went to the sink, and turned the faucet off when it dripped. Then I wrote the cleanest entry of the week. Unauthorized intake, misrepresentation, stolen documents submitted. I didn't reply to Megan. Mistakes like that don't need commentary. They need witnesses. I walked into the agency office in person. The receptionist looked up, surprised. I'm here regarding your case reference, I said. She typed, then looked at me again. Are you, Mr. Ali? Yes, I said. A coordinator came out, mid-30s, professional smile, tired eyes. She led me into a small conference room and closed the door. We've received concerns from your family, she began. I've received your intake materials, I said, including submissions made without my consent. Her smile faltered. I believe there may be some confusion. I slid the printed email across the table. Then the metadata. Then the doctor's note. Then the bank confirmation page. One by one. No speeches. She stopped talking and started reading. The room went quiet except for paper shifting. After several minutes, she looked up. These documents were obtained improperly, she said. Yes, I replied. And the caregiver designation is false, I said. She nodded once, carefully. We'll suspend the intake immediately, she said. And we'll note misrepresentation. Good, I said. There may be consequences, she added, voice lower now. I understand, I said. As I stood to leave, she said, thank you for coming in person. I paused at the door just long enough to give her the only sentence that mattered. Justice doesn't shout, I said. It records. Brandon called later, angry enough to skip the warm-up. What did you do? He demanded. I corrected the record, I said. Megan is in tears, he said. They accused her of fraud. They identified misrepresentation, I replied. There's a difference. You went behind our backs, he said. There is no behind when it concerns my life, I said. He breathed hard into the phone. They're talking about reporting this, he said. Do you realize how serious this is? Yes, I said. Then his voice shifted, just slightly. Less anger, more fear. She was just trying to help, he said. She was trying to control, I answered. Using your voice. That landed. He didn't hang up. He didn't argue. He just went quiet, like someone hearing a sound in a building he thought was stable. I wrote one line and stopped. A few days later, Megan appeared in the hallway outside my door. No smile, no tote bag, no perfume. She looked smaller somehow. Not weak, just exposed. We need to talk, she said. No, I replied. I didn't mean for this to happen, she said. If you just answered your phone. I lifted my hand. Not aggressively, just enough. You misrepresented yourself, I said. You submitted stolen documents. You created a record. Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. Can we fix this? She asked. Quietly, I looked at her for a long moment. The loudest people rarely have the facts, I said. And the quietest ones don't need fixing. I closed the door, not hard, just firmly. She didn't knock again. The next week, Brandon came by without a jacket and without a script. He stood in my doorway holding nothing. No folder, no phone, no rehearsed lines. I didn't know, he said. I stepped aside to let him in. He didn't sit. She told me she was just gathering information, he said. That you were being stubborn. I was being precise, I said. He nodded slowly. They told her she can't do that kind of work anymore, he said. The agency. I didn't respond. She wants to apologize, he said. If you're willing. There was the word again. If. I looked at him long enough for him to feel the shape of what he'd been part of. You're my son, I said. That doesn't entitle you to manage my life. He swallowed. I see that now, he said. Good, I replied. Then this is how it works going forward. I said the boundary once. Clearly. Without heat. No access without consent. No calls on my behalf. No help, unless requested. He nodded. I understand, he said. When he left, he closed the door carefully behind him. That mattered more than anything else. On Sunday morning, the apartment was quiet in the way it had been before anyone decided it needed managing. I made coffee. I took my medication and logged it. On the shelf above my desk, the cedar box sat where it belonged. Inside was Catherine's pocket watch. It had arrived by certified mail. No note, no return address, just the watch. I closed the lid and put the box back. Some things are returned not out of remorse, but because holding them becomes dangerous. That's fine. I sat at the table and looked around the room. No levers being pulled, no narratives being built, no urgency, just order. The kind you don't notice until it's restored. I washed my cup, put it upside down on the rack, and opened the window slightly. Nothing more was required. Thank you for listening. Calm justice doesn't shout, it remembers.